Sometimes the biggest twists in life start with something so small, like that morning. I honestly thought all I had to worry about was getting our fat old pig back in the pen before Dad blew a gasket. But as fate would have it, that stubborn animal led me straight into a secret that could save my family or wipe us out for good. Dawn hadn't even chased off the last bit of mist when I slipped on my old boots, careful not to wake anyone, and slipped out into the chill. All I could think about was how the bank was fixin' to take the only thing we had left, this patch of land folks around here called worthless, a joke, a mistake only desperate people would cling to. But this time, that pig didn't stop at her usual mudhole. She headed right through the busted fence, straight into a patch of thorns and rocks Dad had always warned me about. Don't ever go past the fence line, Lena. It's not safe for a girl like you. But desperation makes you brave in ways you'd never imagine. If we lost that pig, we'd have nothing left to sell, nothing to hold the bank off one more month. The trail wound through thick brush, branches clawing at my dress, rocks scraping my shins. I could hear her somewhere up ahead, grunting and snorting, but the sounds bounced all around, making it near impossible to find her, until I heard something else. A low, human groan. I froze in my tracks, heart thumping in my chest, so loud I could barely breathe. Right there, in a natural cave between fallen boulders, lay a man, a stranger, beat to hell, blood on his shirt, face so pale I thought he was already half dead. The pig, my pig, was sniffing at something in his hands, a leather pouch, dirty and worn, clutched so tight you'd think it held his last hope. Every voice in my head screamed to run, but something about the look in his eyes kept me rooted there, almost against my will. He tried to talk, barely whispering. Don't tell anyone you found me. It was less a threat, more a plea, and I couldn't help but wonder who he was hiding from and what in the world he'd done to end up like this. Why was my pig so interested in his pouch? I knelt down beside him, ignoring everything I'd ever been taught about strangers and danger, because honestly, if I left him there, he wouldn't last the day. What happened to you? I whispered, eyes darting around. He struggled to sit up, then gave up, slumping back against the stone. Men, chasing me, he said. They want what I found. Had to hide it somewhere safe. My eyes flicked to the pouch. There was paper in there, old and yellowed. What's in there? I asked. Proof, he said, weaker than ever. Proof this land, your land, is worth more than anyone believes. I almost laughed out loud. Everybody knew this patch of dirt was good for nothing. Dad bought it cheap because no one else wanted it. Soil so poor not even weeds thrived. But then his eyes sharpened, full of urgency. No, you don't understand. There's a railroad company. They've been buying up the whole valley under fake names, paying pennies for what's worth a fortune. These papers prove it. My world tilted sideways. If that was true, our worthless farm might be the key to saving us. But why bring it to me? Why not sell it to the highest bidder? He must have read my mind. Name's Jack Carter. I used to work for them, scouting the routes. But when I saw what they were doing, tricking families like yours, I couldn't stand by anymore. Suddenly, a shout echoed through the rocks, my father's voice, raw with worry. If he finds me here with you. I started, but Jack grabbed my wrist, pressing the pouch toward me. If something happens to me, make sure your father sees these, but trust no one else. The railroad's got people everywhere. They'll do anything to keep this quiet. His warning sent a shiver down my spine. People had died to protect this secret. My father and some men were getting closer, voices bouncing through the hills. I promised Jack I'd come back after dark, tucked the pouch into my dress, and dragged that pig back through the rocks, praying no one saw me. When Dad finally found me, his face was a storm of relief and suspicion. You see anything strange out there? He asked, looking right through me. No, sir. Just Bessie's tracks and rocks. I lied. But then Mr. Harris, the store owner, stepped forward, eyeing me in a way that made my skin crawl. You're sure? There's talk of a dangerous man out there. Maybe even hurt. The whole thing felt like a trap. How much did they know? Were they really just worried about me? Or something else? They decided to search the rocks themselves. I begged to take Bessie home, trying to buy time. Back at the house, I realized there was only one way to pull the men away from Jack's hiding place. I ran to the shed, grabbed the old iron bell, scrambled on top of the coop, and rang it for all I was worth, screaming, "Fire! Fire in the barn!" It worked, Everyone came running. Dad nearly lost his mind with panic, but Mr. Harris saw through it right away, accusing me of lying to distract them. Funny you spotted smoke the moment we were about to search those rocks. The tension was thick as stew, but Dad stood by me, refusing to let them drag me into town for questioning. That's when Harris let slip he was working for the railroad, that documents had gone missing, and they wouldn't stop searching until they got them back. I felt the weight of the pouch burning against my skin. With everyone distracted, Dad looked at me, soft but serious. Lena, whatever you're hiding, you need to trust me. Our future might depend on it. I could barely breathe as I handed him the pouch, telling him everything about Jack and the railroad scam. Dad read every word, his face changing from shock to pure steel. We're getting Jack out now, before they come back. Together, we snuck out, found Jack barely clinging to life, and brought him home, hid him in the attic, patched him up as best we could. While Jack recovered, Dad spread the word to every farmer in the valley, showed them the proof. Soon, a whole coalition had formed, people angry and united for the first time in years. The railroad's men, fooled by my fake story about horse tracks, never came back to search our property. By the time they realized the truth, it was too late. Everyone knew the game. 3 weeks later, I watched surveyors out front, but this time, they were hired by the farmers, not the railroad, making sure every acre was valued fair and square. Jack testified before a judge, the company got nailed for fraud, and officials who thought they were untouchable got hauled off in chains. As for us, our worthless farm paid off every debt and left enough for a new start, wherever we chose. Sometimes I catch myself smiling, watching that stubborn pig rooting around in the mud, thinking about how none of this would have happened if I hadn't followed her that misty morning. It makes me wonder, if you were in my shoes, would you risk it all for the truth? Or play it safe and let your family lose everything? Sometimes the biggest treasures hide where you least expect them, and all it takes is one stubborn step in the right direction to change everything. Open cinematic ending to spark discussion. So tell me, if you were Lena, would you have told the truth from the start, or kept the secret until the very last moment? Sometimes a single choice can change the fate of a whole community that if you think the story ended there, you'd be wrong, because sometimes when a secret comes to light, it shines on things you never meant for anyone to see. The weeks after the railroad scandal broke were nothing short of chaos in our valley. Some neighbors were overjoyed, others angry, feeling betrayed by the ones who kept quiet. And then there were the families who'd already sold out, packing wagons to chase dreams in some far-off county, and leaving behind nothing but dusty memories and broken fences. But for my family, everything had changed. Suddenly, our place was worth more than we ever dreamed. Men came knocking, lawyers, government folks, people with briefcases full of paperwork and promises. Dad never let them in past the porch. He'd sit outside, rough hands folded in his lap, listening in silence as they talked themselves in circles. He'd only say, "Show me the fair price and the paperwork, then maybe we'll talk." That's the kind of man my father was, quiet, steady, unwilling to be fooled twice. Jack Carter, well, he became something like a ghost story around these parts. Some folks whispered he'd skip town once he was well enough, running from danger all over again. But the truth was, he stuck around, staying with us as long as he needed. Sometimes I'd catch him staring out across the fields at sunset, his eyes tired but a little lighter than before, as if all the weight he'd carried for years had finally started to lift. He never asked for thanks, never once tried to take credit for saving anyone. When the law came calling, he stepped forward and testified, voice steady even when hands shook, refusing to let the railroad's men or their money buy his silence. Still, the valley wasn't peaceful. There were threats, quiet ones at first, just odd men watching from the end of the lane or letters slipped under our door at night. Dad never let on that he was scared, but I'd find him cleaning the old rifle more often, pausing by the windows, his eyes scanning the edge of the woods. I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow, just in case. There's a strange kind of fear that creeps into your bones when you know powerful men have lost everything because of you, and you can't shake it just by locking the doors. But life has a way of pushing forward, even through fear. By the time the first real cold snap of autumn hit, our farm felt like a different place. Dad had fixed up the barn and even built a brand new pen for Bessie, the pig that started it all. Mom planted flowers out front, her way of believing in better days. I helped where I could. But truth be told, my mind was rarely on chores. I spent a lot of time thinking about choices, about the risk I took hiding Jack, about the lie I told the search party, about finally handing the papers to my father. I wondered, would I make the same choices if I had to do it over again? Or did luck and a little bit of stubbornness save us more than courage ever could? Some nights, I'd find myself out by the fence line, watching the trains in the distance, long black ribbons slicing across the horizon, carrying someone else's story off into the night. One evening, not long after the last surveyor packed up and left, Jack sat down beside me on the porch steps. He looked older than his years, the kind of tired you can't sleep away. "You know, Lena," he said quietly, "it's not always this clean in the end. Most times, folks like me, we don't get to make it right." He paused, then added, "You did something brave, braver than you know. You saved more than just your own family." I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, watching the sky fade from gold to indigo, thinking about all the families in our valley, how close we'd come to losing everything, and how sometimes the only thing standing between justice and ruin is a girl chasing a pig through the fog. Word got around, of course. Some wanted to make me out as a hero. Others said I should have minded my own business, that trouble finds people who go looking for it. Maybe they're both right, in a way. Life kept moving. Folks learned to stand up for themselves a little more, ask questions, read the fine print on every deal. Dad started going to the town meetings, never missing a chance to warn the others about slick-talking strangers. And every time I caught a glimpse of the railroad men at the edge of town, I remembered how close we'd come to losing it all. As for me, I grew up fast that summer. I learned sometimes the line between bravery and foolishness is thin as a hair. I learned that telling the truth can be the hardest thing you ever do. And that trust, real trust, can save your life, but it can also break your heart if you put it in the wrong hands. Jack left our farm before the first snow. He shook my father's hand and hugged my mother, then looked at me and said, "Don't let them change you, Lena. Not the railroad, not the town, not even your own fears. People like you, people who do what's right, even when it's hard, are rarer than you think." I never saw him again, but sometimes, when the train whistles echo through the hills at night, I swear I hear his voice in the wind, reminding me not to back down. The railroad finally paid every family what they deserved. Some moved away, others stayed, and built something new from the ashes. Our place, once written off as worthless, became the heart of a valley that learned to stand together. And Bessie? She got old and lazy, but we kept her as long as she wanted. A living reminder that sometimes the smallest things really do change the world. So if you ever find yourself standing at a crossroads, wondering if the risk is worth it, remember, courage doesn't always feel like a battle cry. Sometimes it's just a whisper, telling you to take one more step into the unknown. That, and maybe follow the pig, because you never know what she'll lead you to, and how far one brave choice can ripple out and change the lives of everyone around you. Cinematic open ending for discussion. And that's the truth, as best as I can tell it. But what about you? Would you risk everything to do what's right? Or would you walk away and never look back? Sometimes,